Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my opinion. And the semi-finals take place on Tuesday and Wednesday. And this once again is a video where I preview how I think those games will go, and refer to the quarterfinals performances of each of the four sides and their opponents at that stage as well. Now, in the first game out of two, Argentina versus Croatia. First on Croatia. A brilliant win against Brazil, where they dominated in the first half of the game. But from that point onwards, in the second half and in extra time, Brazil did dominate. And it took a long time for the first goal of the game to be scored, and that goal was scored in the final few minutes of the first half of extra time by Neymar, who around that didn't really have a great game as such, but provided that moment when the team needed him most. And I think as a viewer, you can tell when the game is done, or in most cases, you can tell when the game is done and when there is some ways still to go in terms of how this game pans out. And as a viewer, I still didn't think that Neymar goal was the be-all and end-all. I thought Croatia would still do something. And I thought after that goal was scored, Brazil, obviously they did focus on not conceding again. And it was really important that they, if they hadn't conceded, because I didn't think that if they did concede, they would kind of find another way to get back into the game. And we did see that, because they really focused all of their energy on not conceding in that last 15 minutes. And that did go wrong. They found themselves outnumbered. And yes, the shot was deflected, but they wouldn't have really wanted that kind of opportunity to arise anyway. And you could just tell by their reactions after that point in time that, they were just completely deflated. In fact, after that point in time, yes, it did go to penalties, but I thought it was a Croatian win stamped on the game. You could just tell that Brazil had lost their heads. And I don't know why Rodrigo was taking the first penalty. I just think that, here's someone who's only 21 years old and has never really been involved in something like this in his career so far. And even for Real Madrid, he plays a bit part role. And as talented as he is, he's not at the experience level to take the first penalty in this kind of an occasion, a World Cup quarter-final. And of course, the goalkeeper saved it. I wasn't surprised at all. And I think something that we have seen in the second round of shootouts, I think in this game and in the Argentina game for the most part, is that I feel like players were they weren't taking those kind of experimental run-ups, no kind of skips and started run-ups. It was just going through with their shot, going for power and for placement. And that's why we saw a greater standard of penalties in these last two games than we did see in the first two games. And I think that was the reason why the shootouts were more competitive and kind of the two other times around. But of course, that missed penalty at the start, and with a Brazil side that wasn't really planning for it to go that far after they'd got that first goal, of course it was going to play at their minds. And you saw, look, an Alisson who is probably one of the best, if not the best goalkeeper in the world at this point in time, it was kind of just you shoot at the net and you score. Of course, saving penalties is difficult, but I'm saying that because of how the Brazilians did lose their head, and you could tell that, I just thought that no matter where you shot, as long as it was at the goal, it was probably going to go in. And with already one missed penalty, and just to start things off, Brazil, if they hadn't already lost the game after that equaliser went in, they certainly were going to lose it now. And unfortunately, Marquinhos' effort hitting the post and not going in. And in the end, a side that's been so good, honestly, in the games that they've played. Even this game, they did dominate after that rocky first half. They dominated in the second half and in the extra time phase as well. You could say a slightly unlucky way to concede a goal. It would have gone straight at the goalkeeper, the shot, if it wasn't deflected off the defender's foot into the goal. But it is what it is. And I think a slightly brutal elimination. I think that but Brazil did do enough, and they should have closed out that game. Unfortunately, you could even tell by the way they celebrated in the halftime interval of the extra time phase that they really were looking to not concede. I mean, you just got the feeling if they conceded after that point in time, I just thought by then they were a spent force in terms of the excitement during the game. I thought, right, they invested all their energy into getting that first goal. They did do. And they weren't really prepared after that point, and we did see that in the end. So that's on them. The side that's been brilliant, you know, in the games they have played in this competition, and unfortunately, you know, they are going out. And for Croatia, people thought that this golden generation was done, but it's not only them. I think there are players emerging like a Gvardio, like a Juranovic, who was excellent in this game, and along with the experienced players playing well, I think that there are a decent crop of players emerging even outside these experienced players, and they really are a force to be reckoned with. I mean, with what they showed in the Euros, I thought a pretty average showing. I didn't really expect too much from them in this competition, but I mean, they have proved me wrong, and they could. In fact, I actually think that in this game against Argentina, they have a real chance of beating them. I actually think that as kind of how they play as a team, they do go in as favourites. Now, on the Argentina versus the Netherlands game, I think that, look, Argentina did deserve to win the game, of course. I thought, well, apart from the first 20 minutes and the last 20 minutes of normal time, you know, the Dutch didn't really turn up. And I'm not surprised considering the roadmap of the game. I mean, now, if you look at the games the Netherlands have played before this one, they rely on not conceding first because they look to slow the pace of the game right down. And once they get that first goal, they look to kind of cruise through, which, you know, for the most part I'd say, especially against the USA, they did do it, despite the fact the USA did give a decent fight. And the moment they did concede first, after being the better side for the first 20-odd minutes, you know, it was something which isn't in their usual game plan. They you know, they wouldn't have wanted to concede first, and for the most from that point in time, we saw a very kind of a nothing showing from them for a lot of that first 90 minutes. And you could say even in extra time, it was Argentina that dominated. So it was the first 20-odd minutes and the last 20-odd minutes that really, you know, the Netherlands turned up. And I mean, quite an eventful end to that first 90 minutes, and in terms of the goals being scored by the Netherlands. I don't know why Wout Weghorst didn't come on earlier. I mean, Luke de Jong in open play wasn't really doing too much apart from getting into arguments with the goalkeeper. And I thought that if Wout Weghorst had been given more time on the field, it would have been a less kind of a frantic effort to get that equaliser, despite the fact that they were under pressure. In the end, you know, such a brilliantly planned out free kick. I mean, no one would have expected that. And I mean, you know, to try that in that situation was just incredible. And, you know, they deserved to equalise at that point in time. I thought the refereeing was very poor, and this isn't the first game I'm going to be kind of mentioning that about. And I thought for the majority of the first 90 minutes, the decisions did favour Argentina. And we have seen an instance of this before when, you know, that ridiculous penalty decision against Poland. And after, I think, Leandro Paredes kicked the ball at the dugout, the Netherlands dugout, which I thought was an incredibly stupid thing to do. After that, it became kind of a neutral affair with kind of decisions being given against Argentina and the Netherlands as well. And so, I mean, even Lionel Messi himself wasn't really impressed with how the refereeing went, despite the fact that for the majority of the first 90 minutes, it probably did favour his side. So, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that isn't the only instance of poor refereeing in this tournament, as I will mention when I talk about another game. Argentina deserved to win that game. I thought someone like an Enzo Fernandez has been superb this tournament. It would have been fitting had he finished it off with his penalty, but you know, unfortunately, the one time when someone experiments with their run-up and you see that in the end he doesn't even hit the target. And Lautaro Martinez, who look, for his club he's been very good, but unfortunately in this World Cup he hasn't had a great World Cup, and I thought it was great for him that he scored the winning penalty and the kind of penalty that he did as well. And Emiliano Martinez was outstanding. I mean, the penalties that he saved weren't really that bad by any means. I thought that it was, you know, two good saves. And throughout the game, especially the way he kind of walked out to claim the ball, he was very authoritative. So, very good from especially certain players in this Argentinian side. I mean, I think it's kind of a workhorse of a side. I mean, are they the most? Are they kind of? If you're comparing them to kind of other sides in international football, would you say they're kind of up there? You wouldn't really say so, but I do think they have some players who are on the rise, like I just mentioned, like Enzo Fernandez, Julian Alvarez, and they've got a Messi who's playing probably the best he ever has for the Argentinian side. And as long as they've got him and some other players, they have kind of a workhorse-like mentality. It isn't easy for them to win games, but this is a side that has been improving. And I think that, this game between Argentina and Croatia will be a very interesting one. And I am going for I'm going for Argentina going through. I don't know what the scoreline will be. I just think that Argentina will somehow get the job done. Croatia are the better side. And in fact, if they do go through, I'd like to see them kind of having a crack at winning the World Cup that they came so close to winning the previous time. But also, if Argentina do go through, then it'll be a chance for Lionel Messi to win, that World Cup. So, yeah, let's see how that game goes. I do think, it depends. It doesn't who's going to play as the better team. I do think Croatia will have that covered, but I just think that Argentina will have something on the day, and I do think Messi will be the guy to kind of provide that. And now on the second game, France versus Morocco. Morocco beating Portugal, and really, they drew against Croatia, like I said, were the better side in that game, and they've beaten Belgium, Spain, and Morocco. They've not faced easy teams by any means. And in the end, they've really won. They've won 3 out of those 4 games, and even the one game they didn't win was a draw where they were the better side. They've been outstanding this tournament. And the way they defend, they are by far the best defensive side in this competition. And I thought Portugal would be a greater threat than Spain, and they probably were. They did have a few opportunities to get the goals. They didn't take them. And especially in the second half, they looked like they didn't really have answers. After that goal went in, and I thought up till, the stage where that first goal went in, I thought Morocco were the better side. They deserved to be in front. And despite the fact that Portugal did have opportunities to equalise, they didn't take them. They looked like they didn't have answers against this defence, and Morocco did deserve to win the game. And now England versus France. Now, very unlucky for England. I mean, I am an England fan, but still, I think that most people would agree that England were the better side on the day. I mean, like I said before, and I've said this many times, this kind of an encounter deserved to be at the semi-final stage, the level of teams that these two sides are. And, I mean, in my view, the man of the match in this game was Antoine Griezmann. I mean, he was, after what he's done for Atletico Madrid in the last, couple of seasons, after how the Barcelona move worked out, and he just thought, such a good player in the last few years. We haven't really been able to see the best of him at all. He was played out of position while he was at Barcelona, and even then with the whole loan situation where he could only play half an hour for the first part of the season at Atletico Madrid. I thought that for a player of his quality, with what we've seen him do in the past, it really was kind of something sad to see. And yet for France, and especially in this competition, arguably more than a goal-scoring threat, kind of with how he's been with his quality on the ball. This has probably been his best international tournament for France, in my view. Yes, he hasn't got the goals, but I think that with how he has played in that number 10 role, this, in my view, this has been the most impressive international tournament that I've seen him kind of playing for France, even kind of better than Euro 2016 and in the 2018 World Cup. He really is some player. The footballing intelligence that he has, I think any side in the world would want Antoine Griezmann in their team. He really is a terrific player. And yeah, I mean, despite the fact that you'd think it was against the run of play with what he was showing in his club form in recent years, I mean, I don't think so at all. I just think that in this France side, the best of him does get bought out, and we saw once again in this game, how good of a player that he is. And I mean, look, England did dominate the game. I mean, I thought the referee was absolutely terrible in this one. I thought, it was almost basically blatantly against England in my view, and I just don't understand why. There was a penalty chance in the first half, which should have been given. Also, what led up to the first goal, yes, England could have dealt with it better, but I do think that, Clearly the move arose after the foul not being called on Bukayo Saka. And both him and Jude Bellingham in the second half didn't really have too much luck with the referee. I understand that Harry Kane missed the second penalty, and it would have been a moment of huge pressure for him, especially after taking the first one so well. I actually think, of course it's easy for me to say this because, I wasn't the one taking the penalty, but I'm saying that had he done exactly what he did for the first one, it would have still worked. I think that he thought he had to put a bit more effort in this one to completely get it into that top corner, and that's what kind of skied it in the end. I feel very bad for him because he's such a dependable penalty taker, and I think pretty much every player in this England side should hold their heads up high. It seems very premature them going out at this stage. Apart from the USA game, they've been absolutely brilliant, and even in this game they were brilliant. And like I said in my preview video, I think that this England side really isn't given the credit that it deserves. I actually think in their current guise they are a superpower in international football. I think France, England and Brazil, in my view, were the three contenders to win this competition. And after this, most likely France may win this competition. And you've got a Kylian Mbappe who, depending on what he does in the semi-finals and the finals, he'll have 10 or more World Cup goals and 2 World Cups at 23, and would have won those 2 World Cups, which is just sensational, and would have been, I think he was the young player of the tournament in the first World Cup, and in this one he may as well be the player of the tournament. So what a start to his career. I mean, he's got a lot of years ahead of him. And if he wins 2 World Cups before he turns 24, it's absolutely ridiculous. And that's too with a side that's missing players like Karim Benzema, Paul Pogba, N'Golo Kante, who are kind of on the injury prone, are quite injury prone. And I think that with those players in the side, especially Benzema and N'Golo Kante, as good as Olivier Giroud is, of course, I think this would be an even more imposing side than it is. And I wish them the best of luck. And if France do win, this World Cup with some of their key players missing, then it really shows how good of a team they are. And I do think France will win that game. I think they will get to the final. It's going to be either a France versus Croatia or Argentina final. I would like it, but it depends here. I mean, you've got Lionel Messi having an opportunity to, get a first World Cup win as amongst the other trophies that he's got. And if Croatia win this World Cup against the same opposition that they lost it in 2018 against, and the perception that the golden generation, wasn't really going to turn up for the next one, and in the end they have, what a sensational victory it would be. And someone like a Luka Modric, he would be one of the best sportsmen of all time. If you get 5 Champions Leagues, a Ballon d'Or, and a World Cup, you are one of the best sportsmen of all time, especially at 37, one of the best sportsmen of all time. And that's the reason why I really do hope Croatia get past Argentina, win this World Cup. It would be quite something. And, let's not discount Morocco as well. So, that's on the Final 4. And let's see what happens. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and share the video with your friends. Remember, this is my opinion. What's yours?